Well, see, I was waiting for something like the real world stories behind names are always funny to me. So, a guy was in this band, Purveyors of Fiction, and we had a song called Orson Welles, and the song was like we always called it out on stage. It was 195, and it's because until like I actually wrote lyrics for it, it was the BPMs that the song was recorded at, and that's how the guitarist would remember our riffs. Is like, what's tempo was the riff at? Okay, gotcha. Um, Ultimately, the song became Orson Welles. I wrote it about like the misunderstood genius or unrecognized genius going on a killing spree and like killing 195 people. And, like he's the last one, just to prove how great he is and what he can get away with. But like I worked the whole song around this number 195 when the real world reason for it is just it was the BPMs of the song, but it ended up like actually
Oh my
being part of the
gosh.
song because yeah, fuck it, 195 is 195. I like it. So I'm always fascinated by the origins of like things, you know. Um, Aesthetically, this is the most interesting thing for me is you clearly have really spent the time to work out your aesthetic, and the whole world kind of reflects that. I sent a video to you in the chat. It's of a
Oh
short
boy.
film that somebody did for the Proto Men song "Light Up the Night," and I don't know if you've ever listened to the Proto Men. You ever heard of them?
I think I might have heard them, but I don't think I've listened to them often.
They're a band that's based off of the Mega Man video games, and so
Hey,
like
good stuff.
they
Now you got me
basically
hooked.
all of their songs are kind of like based on expanding the world of Mega Man and like the story and detailing it out and whatnot. But they're also like well, I don't want to quite call them power metal, but they've got a very Queen esque, rock aesthetic cemented in like this. Everything about them is highly stylized, and it's got this weird like. This style reminds me a lot of the aesthetic that you have. It's definitely different. It's not the same thing because they have like a different angle that they take with it. But it was the idea of so much care and attention being taken to like really make this sci-fi world feel like it's expanding, and it's like it's taking over every part of it. It's not just visual, it's not just literary, it's auditory. Everything is part of this. And for them, that's like the heavily synthesized music, just lots of boom, 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 to give you like that. What do you call it? That otherworldly, like, oh man, something bad's gonna happen. I can feel it. We're just waiting for the shoe to drop, and one of the robots coming to take me away, kind of thing.
Of course, of course.
So this is your baby, your creation, and it's very. I come across. We talk to a lot of people that have a lot of different angles in here. This as of like recording this past week, I released an episode with Declan Finn, who's just all over the map. Like he writes, he's like, oh, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Like I will try my hand at anything. I just want to tell stories, and it's different when you talk to someone who's just like, I've got this thing. I'm bought all in on this one thing, and I want to dive in as deep and build this one thing out as I can. Is that something that you just feel like you're drawn to, or is it like maybe someday you'll find a place where you want to go and do something else, but for the time being, this is just all you can think about?
The funniest thing with me is that 365 often has become the project that takes the most work to put into it, but it has never stopped me from coming up with other story ideas. I have been writing, have not yet fully published yet, but I've been writing fantasy, I've been writing horror, I've been writing mystery. Some of my screenplays tend towards classic murder mysteries in the vein of the Giallo from Italy, or there's a lot of film noir that seeps into everything I do, because I consider, writers like Philip Jordan and Billy Wilder to have written some of the best dialogue in the history of any medium, truly. But 365 is nice because it is such a specific setting and a specific world, but there is no limit to the possibilities within genres, within aesthetic expressions, because there is the very kind of obvious calling cards that there's the metal aspect with all the denim and leather, to quote Saxon, and also a lot of the cyberpunk stuff that might, lend itself more towards the classic, Blade Runner aspirations. But I write stories that range from straight drama to having a bit of a humorous slant to it, where there's something being said, but it's being said with wit and with good humor. There is something that edges towards fantasy, but never fully gets there, because I like to have that little twist of the unknown. So you feel like the world is almost rooted in a defined reality. May not be our reality. In fact, it's probably as far as removed from our reality as possible. But within the language of that, there is still room for something you cannot explain. In a world so full of things that if we were to see them almost instantaneously, it'd take us a while to register. It might not be on Lovecraft levels of undefinable, but it might, you might take a little while to focus. But 365 is nice because it gives me such a broad enough palette to play around with that I'm never really limited by the project. And moreover, it's knowing that this thing is being nursed all the while I'm working on other stuff. Because I've got a YouTube channel called Quality Candor that's focused more towards film and music reviews and stuff like that. Although I'm probably going to I'm working on restructuring that. And I also want to do documentaries with that platform. But I also work as a editor for a film review site, A Fistful of Film. And of course, I am currently layout designer on Anvil, as we are getting close to having issue 1 finished, wrapped up, and out the door. Fingers crossed.
I actually don't think I've had anybody on the show actually talk about Anvil. So you want to take a minute or two and kind of tell people what that is?
Oh, sure thing. Rich from Ironage Media.
I'd assume most people know, but
You'd hope so, but no. Rich from Ironage Media pulled in me and his co-host from Iron Age Nights with Drink with Crazy, Daniel P. Riley, and pulled together this kind of A team to do Anvil, an Iron Age magazine. And we just locked in stories for issue 2, and we're working on finalizing issue 1. And essentially, it is kind of it is addressing some of my misgivings with the magazine market. Obviously, I'm not the designer nor architect of the concept overall. That's Rich. It's Rich's baby through and through. But I'm forever grateful for him to pick me to hop on the project, because it helps me address some of my many misgivings I've had with the magazine market as an independent author. And also as someone working within the indie space, where it's a world filled with, short windows, maybe you never know when someone's even going to be open from time to time. Some people wind up just doing anthologies. Some people do magazine buy for magazines, but it's a once a year sort of deal. But the nice thing about Anvil is that it's one more possible way to get more authors, more comic creators, more critics a chance to really get published and get out there. And I think Anvil, too, is in a very neat position because it's very much a speculative fiction style magazine with its roots in pulp literature. And it pulls on everyone, people who have gravitated towards the Iron Age, people who have come from the pulp rev side of thing, people who have come from the Comicsgate side of thing. It is, to use another of many metal puns that'll obviously be used later in the show, it galvanizes. It really does. It helps bring things together in a way that, like the Iron Age, after it was kind of christened, for lack of a better word, last year, has helped people congeal and audiences to start to kind of, find each other, but also find the creators they wish to support. And we'll also get into that with